Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. It's the 86th anniversary of the outbreak of World War II. In September 1939, Poland was attacked by the two biggest European totalitarian regimes of the 20th century, Nazi Germany and Stalinist Russia. And to talk about it, we're joined by Dr. Michał Przeperski, historian and spokesman for the Museum of Polish History. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're talking about the events only the oldest Poles can remember, but how vivid is the memory of World War II among the Polish society?
Oh, well, one may say that Poland may be the country which is among those that remember and tends to, carry the memory of Second World War in the largest possible extent as it comes to Europe. In the larger perspective, we tend to compare that sort of memory practices and the level of involvement in carrying the memory of Second World War, let's say between Poland and Germany. And well, as we know from what has been discovered by the researchers, Germans tend to simplify it up to a certain extent, tend to forget it a little bit. Whilst this is completely a different story with Poles, it still consists, I would say, something like the core of our memory, of this memory that is still being carried by those, still the oldest ones, but it's somehow, one may say, it's still there. And clearly, this is also the story of a lot of institutions that have been established, well, I wouldn't say recently, but let's say after 1989.
You touched upon an interesting topic. I mean, you said that the Germans tend to forget their role during the Second World War. Now, forgetting is one thing, but are they also trying to whitewash the history?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that the Germans or the German government tends to openly whitewash the role played by the Germans, which certainly was absolutely crucial. If it was not for Adolf Hitler, even if it was not for Third Reich, and if it was not for the Wehrmacht attacking Poland on September 1st, 1939, there would be no Second World War. But what I'm trying to say is that let's say the policy of memory in Germany tends to, let's say, try to share I wouldn't say to share the guilt, but to share the context of Second World War and to show it as a very, very complex phenomenon. What I'm trying to say essentially is that, well, one should remember that there was also Soviet Union involved in this whole practice. If it was not for Stalin, again, there would be probably no Second World War how it was. If it was not for the bystanders, some German historians tend to say, if it was not for the bystanders from the countries of Central Europe, there would be no Holocaust. And if I were to say personally, if I were to say what I think about it as a historian, I think that this is exactly that point which I can't agree with my friends, German historians at. So this is like a little bit about the way of thinking among the German elites. And this is also, I would say, to a certain extent, also it is a natural, course of events. Once, really the atrocities is something not really very nice to be remembered, not for the victims, but also for those whose fathers were the perpetrators.
Talking about perpetrators, culprits. Russian propaganda does its best to portray Poland as one of the states whose role led to the outbreak of the Second World War. Now, how is this history, something that happened more than 80 years ago, serving Russia's interests today?
This is certainly one of the most interesting topics nowadays, which shows exactly how really important for the current course of events, and not only for the course of politics. And it's not only important in the fields of politics, but in a, let's say, broader sense. Russian propaganda tends to say that Poland was exactly the country that firstly, started the war in 1920. So like the Polish Bolshevik War, which we know in Poland, which we share that knowledge, that stance with most of the historians of most of the nations of Central Europe and Europe on the whole, we know that it was a war of defense. So we weren't those attacking but there was not even one moment in which Poland was like an attacking power, whilst that was completely not the case with Soviets. And you know, it's so easy to portray this quite a black-white situation of 1920 and the way more complex situation of 1939. I mean, why is that more complex? Because you have way more actors. You have Third Reich, so Germany, you have France and Great Britain and Italy and Soviet Union. And Poland is being shown, for example, what is being used as one of the most important arguments is that in 1938, so like autumn, to be exact, it's September 1938. So during the Munich conference, or the outcome of the Munich conference, Poland took a tiny little part of Czechoslovakia, which, by the way, was really a severe mistake on the part of Polish diplomacy, on the part of Polish government, which nevertheless had absolutely...
A diplomatic mistake, but it's worth remembering that the very same land was annexed by the young Czech Republic in the 1919 or 1920.
1919, exactly. What I'm essentially trying to say is that the fact that this really very tiny part of Czechoslovakia has been annexed by Poland, which I would like to underline that by no means was a successful endeavor, but at the same time, the Sudetenland, this part of Czechoslovakia that has been taken by Third Reich, was the instrumental thing, you know, in the course of events leading to the outburst of Second World War. And you know what Kremlin really likes is to manipulate, is just to, you know, to cherry pick, you know, some of the events, some of them that were, well, that they actually took place, but the interpretation ascribed to them is, well, I would cut long story short and simply say absurd from not only from Polish point of view, but from the point of view of the nations of Central Europe.
One last question, and briefly, if I may ask you, Poles were quite enthusiastic at the end of this summer in 1939 because they had assurances from France and Great Britain. Today we have NATO. In case of the worst, will our allies act differently than in 1939?
Well, to be absolutely exact, we don't know unless checked. But what I would like to say is that the system of bilateral alliances that was established by Joseph Beck and by our friends, by our allies from France and Great Britain exactly in August 1939 was way weaker if to look like deeply in what was the like literal meaning and understanding of the alliance, and if to compare it with what we have with NATO now, the latter is absolutely way stronger. And this is not only because of the fact that there are way more countries, but also like the very legal provisions standing behind it look completely differently. And at the very, I mean, at the end of the day, what really matters is the strength of our army, the armies of NATO. And I wouldn't say I'm very optimistic, but I'm way more optimistic. I think it's way more founded than the optimism shared by Poles in August 1939.
And on that optimistic note, we shall put a full stop here. Dr. Michał Przeperski, historian and spokesman for the Museum of Polish History, was our guest this afternoon. Thank you very much.
You.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more news and interviews here on TVP World.